What if the next great industrial revolution isn't about inventing shiny new materials, but about resurrecting old ones? That's what we're digging into today. There's this huge economic shift happening, kind of quietly, right under our noses, an entire economy being built from our waste.
Okay, so if you look at the global economy, the forecast is, well, a bit sluggish. Things are slowing down. But some nations are really bucking that trend. Take a look here at India. It's projected to keep up this really robust 6.3% growth rate. That makes it a real standout in a world that's kind of bracing for some economic headwinds.
So the big question is, where does that resilience come from? And what's super interesting is that it's not just about the usual stuff, traditional industry. A huge part of this story is a powerful new economic engine, one that creates growth not by digging deeper for new resources, but by building a secure domestic supply chain from the materials we already have. This is the circular economy in action, and it's a big deal.
To really get this shift, we've got to look at the materials we completely depend on. Let's start with lead. A massive 85% of it goes into lead-acid batteries. And no, these aren't just for your car. They're the absolute critical backbone for our data centers, for telecom towers, for renewable energy storage. I mean, they are literally powering our modern world. Then you've got aluminum. This stuff is in everything, from the phone in your hand to the building you're probably sitting in right now. But have you ever stopped to think about where it all comes from? Well, check this out. A staggering 60% of the world's primary supply is produced in China. So what do you think that means for the supply chain of pretty much every other country on Earth? And you know what? It's a really similar story with plastic. Production is packed into the Asia-Pacific region, with China alone making up a third of the entire global total. This kind of dependency, relying on just a handful of sources for the world's most essential materials, well, it creates enormous economic risk. And that risk is the why behind this urgent push for a whole new model. For decades, the old way was simple: make these materials from scratch. We call it primary production, but it comes at a super high cost. Gigantic energy use, serious environmental damage, and of course, using up resources that are finite. But the new way, the promise of recycling, it offers a path to a circular, sustainable supply with just massive energy savings and way less pollution. It's a direct answer to all those risks we just talked about. And this quote right here, it says it all. This just perfectly illustrates how revolutionary this shift really is. We are not talking about some small, incremental improvement. Saving 95% of the energy needed for production, that is an absolute game changer. It completely flips the economics and the environmental footprint of using a material as critical as aluminum. And let's be clear, this isn't some tiny niche market. As you can see here, we're talking about a combined market of over $168 billion just for these three recycled materials. And with all of them projected to grow and grow fast, it's pretty clear the circular economy isn't just some nice idea anymore. It is a core pillar of our economic future. Okay, so let's zoom back in on India for a second, because it really provides a powerful blueprint for how this whole transition can work. Just look at this number. A remarkable 85% of India's entire domestic demand for lead is already being met by recycled sources. That's a country actively building its own resource independence, and in many ways, leading the way. So how in the world do you make this happen at scale? Well, one of the key policy tools is something called Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR, and it basically flips the script on waste. It makes the companies that produce the goods financially and logistically responsible for collecting and recycling them. So they become a central part of the solution, not just the source of the problem. But look, this journey is not easy. And the hurdles India faces are ones a lot of countries will probably recognize. You've got this huge informal sector. We're talking nearly 90% of used lead-acid batteries that often operates with unsafe methods. And that's on top of inconsistent enforcement of the rules, gaps in collecting the waste, and tough price competition from unregulated operators who just cut corners on safety and environmental standards. So to tackle these exact challenges, the government is rolling out this really comprehensive strategy. They're putting stronger waste management rules in place, and they've launched a centralized online portal to track that EPR compliance in real time. There are new tax mechanisms being introduced to bring scrap dealers into the formal economy, and a national data portal is being created to get a clear picture of the whole system. It really is a full-court press for transparency and accountability. The potential here is just staggering. Seriously, think about this for a second. Unlike resources that you use up and then they're gone, materials like aluminum are almost infinitely recyclable. 3/4 of all the aluminum ever made is still out there in productive use. We're literally sitting on these urban mines of incredible value, just waiting to be tapped again and again and again.
So here's the crucial point, the real takeaway. The circular economy has officially moved from the margins to the mainstream. This is not just a green initiative or a nice-to-have anymore. For nations trying to build resilient supply chains, for industries trying to manage crazy volatile costs, and for economies that want sustainable growth, it has become an absolute economic necessity.
So we're really at the dawn of a new industrial age, one where we can literally build our future from the remnants of our past. But the question remains, for all of us, are we as consumers, as industries, as governments, ready to fully embrace this change and finally close the loop for good? The choice, really, is ours.